Frank Warren says that he has no problem putting Daniel Dubois in with Deontay Wilder right now, like next, like within the next, 6 months, something like that. He says he's got no issue doing that. Now, Dubois has also piped up and said, yeah, he's ready to take Wilder on next if Frank Warren thinks he's ready for that. And you can see him here in a Seconds Out interview talking about how he thinks he is ready for Deontay Wilder right now and that he'd break him down. So what's really going on here? Well, the current economic situation, and when I say current, the unfolding economic situation, because the economy is about to nosedive. And any of you who haven't woken up to this reality, you will in the coming months and over the next, let's say, year or so. You'll wake up to this reality that the economy in many countries, certainly in the UK, is about to nosedive and be in the worst state we've ever seen it in our lifetimes. Okay. That is going to obviously affect sales in boxing in terms of pay-per-view, ticket sales, the amount of money that fighters can get. And so therefore, if you've got a fighter who you think is a viable world champion and you're Frank Warren, you may be pushing for them to fight not necessarily a world title fight next, but somebody in the top 10, one of the biggest names right now, because you know that the way the economy is looking, you need to make as much money as you can before boxing goes into a slump along with everything else. So maybe that's what's going on here with Frank Warren saying this, or maybe he's not really serious. Maybe it's just a way of hyping Daniel Dubois' name up. But it is interesting because is Daniel Dubois and is Frank Warren overlooking a certain Mr. Joe Joyce? Because that's the fight that's still scheduled, unless they're, going to do a maneuver and veer away from that fight and maybe take on a bigger name. But for him to be talking about Wilder and not focusing on Joyce is interesting. Could it all go wrong there for him and Mr. Warren? And obviously Mr. Warren is the promoter of Joyce too, but he heavily favors Daniel Dubois. We all know this, and Frank Warren has actually been honest about this, that he does favor Dubois. He has had Dubois from the start of his career, and that's the guy that he's rooting for, really, whereas Sam Jones, obviously the manager of Joe Joyce, is on his side. So it's interesting. And also another thing that people are mentioning is the fact that could we be getting carried away? Could Dubois and Warren be getting carried away by the fact that Tyson Fury did a job on Deontay Wilder? See, when a fighter gets beat in decisive fashion, all of a sudden everybody thinks, well, I can do the same thing. It looked easy. How vulnerable Tyson Fury made Deontay Wilder look. I can do the same thing. Well, sometimes it's not as easy as it looks. And I think people are going to find out the same thing when it comes to Anthony Joshua, because of course he got knocked out by Andy Ruiz. And there are going to be a lot of fighters out there, including the likes of Kubrat Pulev, who are saying, yeah, I can do a similar job. This guy's vulnerable, but it's easier said than done. And that, I think, will almost certainly be the case if Daniel Dubois was to fight Deontay Wilder. I think that, yes, Wilder got beaten up by Tyson Fury and humiliated. I don't think it's going to be that easy for everybody, to be honest with you. I know that he's technically limited and all that kind of stuff, but Tyson Fury is very experienced. Tyson Fury is very skilled. He reads his opponents very, very well. He has the height and reach and a certain skill set to be able to pull off what he did. And remember, when you're talking about elite level, the margins of error are so slim. Tyson Fury nearly got clipped with a tremendous Deontay Wilder right hand in the first round. In fact, it did clip him, but he just caught the end of the punch. Tyson Fury's chin wasn't in the middle of the target, if you get what I'm saying. Like when Deontay Wilder lands his right hand, he's trying to punch through the target, whereas he just clipped Tyson Fury at the end of the punch rather than in the middle of the punch. And it could have been very different if he caught him in the middle of the punch. But of course, that's Tyson Fury's skill, making sure that his range was such that he wasn't getting caught in the middle of punches like that. Can Daniel Dubois do the same? Well, Daniel Dubois doesn't have the reach of a Tyson Fury, doesn't have the experience of Tyson Fury, doesn't have the quickness of Fury, he's nothing like Fury. All I would say is he's probably more heavy-handed than Tyson Fury. Is he physically stronger? I don't know. But heavy-handed, yes. Probably naturally hits harder. But I don't see Dubois being able to replicate everything Fury did. I think Dubois would be more hittable than Tyson Fury. But again, we have to see where Deontay Wilder's at if he goes through with the Fury rubber match, because we're hearing that Deontay Wilder's injured. And if he was to take another loss against Fury, and then they maybe try and put Dubois in with him then, again, it depends on where Wilder's at the time, where his mind's at, where his body's at, because he is, 34, 35 years old now, Deontay Wilder, and fighters like that sometimes get old overnight, particularly when they start accumulating injuries. But if you're talking about the Deontay Wilder of right now, who would I pick, him or Daniel Dubois? I'd pick Wilder. Truth be told, I think Dubois is too green right now for a Deontay Wilder. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What's this really all about? Is it Frank Warren looking at the current economic situation and thinking, you know what, I need to push Dubois into a major fight right now, bigger than the Joe Joyce fight, the likes of a Wilder. I need to push him into that now so I can, pay some bills before everything goes pear-shaped. Is that what it is? Is it just him using Wilder's name to hype up Dubois? Or does he genuinely think that this guy is so good right now that why not put him in against the likes of Deontay Wilder? Let me know what you think, people. It's happening. I'm out.